Do you want to make your own campaign, but you're not sure where to begin? How do you even create a whole adventure from scratch? Here's a neat trick. You don't. You're a DM, a scoundrel, a knave, a scallywag. You cheat, steal, and lie. Here's what you actually do. Go find a big bad evil guy. BBEG for short, but it's pronounced BBEG. You decide that the final session of the adventure is about fighting this BBEG. And then you plan everything else in the adventure around the BBEG. You start at the end of the adventure and plan back to front. When you do that, everything will be much easier. Welcome to Mystic Arts, where everyone is the main character and nobody's happy about it. My name is Daði. I'm a professional writer and director, and I've been DMing for over 10 years. So where do you find your BBEGs? Well, they can come from anywhere. Maybe you read a comic, manga, book, or something else, and now you want to put that BBEG into your game. Do it. Or maybe you opened up one of these official D&D splat books and realized that the Blob of Annihilation is the perfect end boss for your campaign because you like blobs and you like Annihilation. Do it. Or maybe you got a third-party book about mortals that are supposed to flee, and this section on fantasy Godzilla has your mind racing. So you thought maybe you'll use that stat block. Or make your own. Do it. Or you might be subscribed to Loot Studios, the sponsor of today's video, and you saw their Journey to Alfheim pack. The final chapter of their Viking saga, and found this massive, gorgeous miniature called Jörmungandr. And you were in awe, so you decided to build a video around it as the BBEG. No? Just me? Anyway, let's imagine that's the one you go for. Well, how does this work? It's not that complicated, really. We're going to break it down into 6 easy steps. The BBEG, the High Tower Surprise, the Loyal Lieutenants, the Big Goal, the hints along the way, and the Inciting Incident. Back to front, right? 6 answers to 6 questions. Let's jump right in and make a campaign right now. The BBEG. Okay, so we've decided that the BBEG in this campaign is Jörmungandr. Let's start by asking ourselves a few questions about Jörmungandr. Like, what is a Jörmungandr? Well, like all mythic creatures in D&D's anthology-like history, it originates from real-world mythology. Or to be precise, it comes from Norse mythology. Hey, I'm a Norse. So let's take a look at some mythology. Jörmungandr, sometimes called Miðgarðsormur, is a sea serpent that circles the world, biting its own tail, like the Egyptian and Greek Ouroboros. Jörmungandr is one of the arch-nemeses of the Æsir, the species of Norse god dudes that live in Ásgarður.
Asgard.
Or that. The other 2 enemies, or BBEGs you might say, were Hel and Fenrir. You've seen Thor Ragnarok, right? Or played the video game adaptation, Kratos Ragnarok? It's that stuff. Of course, in my own campaign setting, I've got my own version. Many years ago, before the tyranny of Rezul, or the empire from Mythalen, just moments after the conjunction of worlds, when this world was still in its infancy, there existed 3 elder evils that threatened to tear it asunder. The dragon, the pandemonium, and the serpent. The Alliance of Orithonians swore to destroy these evils. They were the progenitors of elves, dwarves, and men. They created weapons, wrote the rules of the world, and created divinity. But the Alliance could not destroy the other evils, only seal them away. That, I think, is a pretty good answer to what is the BBEG. It's the serpent, an elder evil from before time. So why is the BBEG? I mean, what are its motives? Well, it's not lawful, right? It's a beast. Its mind is chaos. It wants to devour the earth? No. Let's say it wants to devour the sun. But it can't. It's sealed away, so take that, you big worm. So that brings us to how is the BBEG? Someone wants to free it. And if that someone succeeds, then the serpent will rise, the sun will be destroyed, and this world shall be plunged into an endless age of darkness. So this is where we do a High Tower Surprise. In screenwriting, a High Tower Surprise refers to that moment in the 3rd act of the film where we think we're done, but then there's a second, 3rd act that shows up and reminds us that we're not quite done yet. It's kind of essential to enjoy a film, especially like an action or adventure movie, which D&D is certainly a neighbor to. Basically, your action hero has already defeated the baddie in a fist fight in the rain, and then, while being arrested, Gary Busey pulls out a gun. Or the big 3 Avengers already dueled Thanos to a standstill, and then Thanos won. And then Carol Danvers duels him to a standstill and Thanos wins again, so Tony Stark has to do his thing. Or in Empire, Leia escapes Cloud City, but Luke is still fighting Vader, and we get an actual surprise. Vader was German for father all along. Basically, the fact that we've entered the third act is no excuse to stop having fun. We still have surprises in store in the finale. That's what makes it epic. So, what is our Hightower surprise? Well, we've been chasing after this lieutenant the whole campaign. Let's call her Hale. In the middle of fighting her, we realized that she already nearly finished the ritual to summon the serpent, and all that's required is her own blood sacrifice. When the PCs kill her, a massive serpent rises from the ground to eat the sun. Go stop the serpent before it eats the sun and plunges the world into darkness. Pretty please. Look, I live in Iceland. I can tell you that a few months without the sun will make you depressed. Don't make me go a millennia. The repercussions will be dreadful. I'll stop uploading. Now you might think, won't my PCs hate me when I just say the BBEG is summoned just like that? Yeah, maybe. You know your players better than I do, and if they think that's railroading, then you should avoid it. But in my experience, audiences and players alike are okay with coincidences that get them into trouble, but not out of it. And then the bad guys do this is usually an okay framing device. The BBEGs are competent, wicked, and they must be stopped. When you say, and then the good guys save the day, that's a coincidence that gets PCs out of trouble. It's called Deus Ex Machina, and it's bad storytelling. I've done it before, but you gotta be super careful. I don't think it's good advice to suggest you do that kind of thing. But I've done it and gotten away with it. I've also done it and been given the side eye.
Bombastic side eye.
So, the BBEGs can only be fought by the incredible heroes doing incredible things, and anything else is antithetical to the spirit of the game we're playing. When the bad guys pull a rabbit out of a hat and do that thing you've been foreshadowing for a whole campaign, the players will understand that they were cutting it close, and that's the narrative. Of course, you might decide over the course of a campaign that this eventually shouldn't be possible because the players have done such a good job so far. But I invite you to instead reframe the dramatic question. The question shouldn't be, can the players kill Hale, the lieutenant, before she completes the ritual? It can be, can the players kill Hale, the lieutenant, before she completes the perfect version of the ritual? As in, the serpent may get summoned no matter what, but if Hale completes the ritual her way, the serpent gets a head start on nomming the moon, or maybe starts with more hit points, or an additional mythic phase. You could even tell the players that Hale is doing a ritual during the fight, and if they kill her before it completes, you could literally tell them the mechanic behind the fight was. If you'd killed her a round later, the serpent would have started with twice as many hit points. Put the stakes on the table. Frame the dramatic question in the way you think is appropriate, and then give it to your players to answer for you. This way, you can have your Hightower surprise and everyone can enjoy one last fight. PCs versus the Gary Busey snake. So, who's this Hale person? I've talked about her a lot. Well, now we're getting into the loyal lieutenants. This is key to building a campaign back to front, especially with these sorts of extra planner beyond the veil threats that are largely dumb beasts. You need a mouthpiece character that can walk around the mortal plane. It gives you this baked-in lead-up to the main villain showing up. One day, you're walking around the city of Blackguard and thinking about how cool the Obsidian Palace is, or wondering why the price of the newspaper just went up, and then the DM drops this mini on the table and says, Jörmungandr showed up, roll for initiative. Well, that ain't it, Chief. Like, it's fine, I guess, for a beer and pretzel sort of game, but if you play this game to be immersed, then Jörmungandr showed up has a few problems. You don't know what a Jörmungandr is, where a Jörmungandr comes from, or the primary diet of Jörmungandr, the sun. For a fight to have stakes, they can't just exist inside the DM's head. You have to put the stakes out there so they exist within everyone's head. If it isn't said, it doesn't exist. Basically, you need a lieutenant to say, "You're too late. Soon the serpent that circles the world will rise and devour the sun. None of you will ever see the light of day again." You know, that kind of stuff. Now we all know that the serpent is a one-of-a-kind creature that wants to eat the sun, and none of us will be able to photosynthesize anymore. Thanks, Jörmungandr. So we develop our lieutenant. Her name is Hale, also stolen from Norse mythology. She'll be a bit different from the mythic Hale. We'll say she's a social outcast, maybe a hag, or the human daughter of a hag. She was nurtured from youth by visions of this big serpent that corrupted her mind as she grew older. Hale is captivated by the serpent and the sunless world. Hale likes those things. She's been fully indoctrinated into this ideology, and there is little we can do to change her mind. She has to be physically stopped. But maybe if restrained and knocked out, she could be deprogrammed one day in the future. But definitely not over the course of a single encounter. She didn't just wake up one morning and decide to delete the sun. This is who she is as a person. She's been indoctrinated for her entire life. Hale is also a human, so she can walk around, recruit minions, talk to people, lie about her true purpose, all guided by her god, the slithering titan. It's the serpent. There's something really fun about giving bad guys an alter ego name that they can use early on in the adventure. Anyway, Hale is our main lieutenant and a BBEG in her own right. But we're not done, because players will need an enemy to fight for every leg of the campaign, not just at the end. And while, yes, technically you could have them constantly fighting Hale, with her dramatically getting away, like at the end of a Saturday morning cartoon, but that's not fun for the players. They want to feel like they're getting closer and closer to what's going on in the adventure. So instead, you use tiered lieutenants. It's simple. You divide your campaign into each tier of play you intend to play in. A tier of play being levels 1 through 4, 5 through 8, 9 through 12, 13 through 16, and 17 through 20. Unless you're running a campaign that doesn't go up to 20 but stops at something like 13. That presumably means your final session starts with that final level up and then the players fight Jormungandr. So the bad guy of the 9 through 12 tier is Hale, so you'll need 2 more lieutenants for 5 through 8 and 1 through 4. Create those adventures around those earlier lieutenants and their plans, and you're good to go. But before you can figure that out, you need to understand Hale's big goal. You need an answer to the question, why can't she just summon Jormungandr right now? Why does she have to wait until the players are all level 13? Well, here's where you kind of have to work out the meat of your adventure. What is your adventure about, really? If this is a desert survival fantasy game where food is scarce, then it turns out Hale needs raw meat to summon Jormungandr. So she's already and automatically in conflict with the PCs from the get-go. If this is a game about collecting as much money as possible, then Hale needs to melt gold to summon Jormungandr. If this game is about fighting big armies, then Hale needs raw manpower. Literal soldiers to summon the beast. If it's a game about a set of cool magic items that you want to give your players, then Hale needs those items to summon Jormungandr. Anyway, you get it. So what's this game about? Make the players and the bad guys want the same thing. Now they're automatically in conflict. Looking at this Loot Studios mini I got, we can see that it's emerging out of the water. There's all this fine detailing with rocks and the ocean. So maybe our version of the game is a naval campaign. The players could have this ship and Jormungandr could emerge from the ocean. That sounds awesome. When possible, let yourself take inspiration from wherever you can find it. Whether it's the Norse myths of Jormungandr or another cool mini that you have. Like my ship. Now that you've built your finale, you need to start building backwards. I think of it as the hints along the way. These little snippets the players pick up on to figure out the endgame. Since it's a naval campaign, let's say that Hale needs gold. I think that's going to fit our campaign pretty well with, finding treasure, killing pirates. Actually, I guess that means our tier 2 bad guy lieutenant is a pirate captain. Pirate captain with an obscene amount of gold he's been collecting on Hale's Ordos. That way, he could know a thing or two about Hale when confronted. And in tier 1, when our heroes are still on their starting island in this naval campaign, there's a gold mine on the island. They might circumnavigate the island to find it, and inside there is kobolds and a young dragon hoarding gold, all for someone named Hale. So each tier of play has its own lieutenant character, and they move the overall plot forward. But here's the good bit. The pirate captain is also a standalone villain. He's a pirate captain. He's got a reputation. And there's plans he could be brewing that are completely unrelated to Hale. Same with our dragon in the mine. This lets you isolate each tier of your campaign into a self-contained adventure with its own beginning, middle, and end. So your players won't get burned out on one long, never-ending story. They play through multiple exciting arcs, defeating villains, getting reward, and then have the option of continuing on with the game if they're hooked. You could literally bake it into your premise. Hey guys, this campaign could end here after you've defeated Snorthalaxasicus, the mine dragon, or we could play for another few levels. That way you're not asking your players to sign up for 2 years of a hobby, but slowly roping them in. You start them off with a 5-room dungeon with a hint of the serpent. Then, in the next adventure, there's a bit more of a hint, and another connection to this dragon in the mine, Snorthalaxasicus. Then, you'll let the dragon take center stage as the adventure's villain. until Snortalaxasagus the Mind Dragon is defeated, and then you remind us that Hel is still out there, doing something. But we don't know what. Over the course of these tier-based adventures with their own villains, you drop hints of the grander story. The players find a magic item with ties to Jörmungandr. Let's say a ring of spell storing that looks like an Ouroboros, or a hammer of returning that was forged from a dying star, a weapon wielded by a titan killed by the serpent during the alliance of Orithonians. Each of these hints will continue to remind the PCs of this backstory of the world with the Elder Evils. I mean, they'll forget in between, but that's why we remind them, and print it on their magic items. Anyway, you drop hints along the way, and once that's done, you think of fun, tertiary encounters that help seal the theme in. Since it's a naval campaign, you figure there could be pirates, Sahuagin, or in a mirror to the finale of the campaign, you add a kraken to assault the PCs while they're sailing around the southern blue. You know, the fun stuff. Finally, we need an inciting incident, something that kickstarts the campaign. If you're starting at the beginning, thinking of one of these can just seem impossible. Where do I begin? Well, now that you've already built most of this campaign, it should be much easier. You start with someone getting robbed of all their gold, or a dungeon full of gold that a lieutenant is going to steal, or there's a pirate ship the players could buy if only they had enough gold. You find an excuse to tie your opening session, probably a 5-room dungeon, into 1, gold, 2, the sea, and 3, the big snake. It should be easy at this point. It's a tomb full of gold, and inside there's a magic compass that belonged to a fabled pirate captain. But once inside, there's someone stealing the gold for his master. Hell. Bam! First session. And that's it. Now we have an inciting incident that will lead nicely into all these hints we can drop along the way. Lieutenants for every tier of play, tertiary encounters, a big goal for the lieutenants, gold. We have a head lieutenant in Hel, a high tower surprise in summoning Jörmungandr, and then we have this beastie. By the way, if you want Jörmungandr as a mini, it's available now on lootstudios.com in their Journey to Alfheim pack. It's got these 3 Elven factions, monsters, and Jörmungandr, which, by the way, is also available as a 75mm mini if you want a truly massive end boss. There's launch week discounts running now until Monday, June 30th. Link in the description and in the pinned comment. Go check them out. In Chapter 5 of the 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide, it says, one way to ensure your campaign's longevity is to come up with 3 compelling conflicts you can create adventures around. Introduce these conflicts early in the campaign, and as the campaign unfolds, focus adventures on different conflicts to keep the player's excitement high. And in their chapter on Greyhawk, it says, the default setting features conflicts with 3 major villainous groups, chromatic dragons, elemental evil cults, and Ayus and his followers. You can replace 1 or more of these conflicts with ones of your own devising from the ones from the Flavors of Fantasy section earlier in this chapter. If you use these conflicts, look for opportunities in your adventures to introduce creatures in service to the 3 villainous groups. Give goals to these villains that bring their operatives into conflict with the player characters. And they've got a point. Your story will be stronger if you're able to effortlessly swap between villains. You use a mixture of A-plot, B-plot, and C-plot in a soup of unpredictability, and your players will hang on to your every word. Frankly, this is worth its own video, but in short, if you have 3 factions vying for power, the players never know which is behind what, and they'll want to find out. They'll want to spend their time trying to figure it out. That's a good mystery. And you've already seen how easy it is to develop a villain back to front like this. I did the serpent for you. Now go do the dragon and pandemonium, and you've got 3 arc villains ready for an epic, multi-year campaign. Or, your own versions of these big 3. It'll be easy. It'll take you 1 afternoon, and you'll have an outline that lasts you for years. Then, armed with that outline, you'll be prepared for anything. So you'll put it aside and prepare 1 session at a time, promising your players to put dope stuff in front of them every week, and you'll never see your players lose interest. There is always something happening. Victories to be won. There's always arcs being completed, and yet a hint of something more to come. It's both episodic and serialized. And sure, you could start with an opening session with no plan. You can prepare campaigns in a million different ways. There are as many ways to play D&D as there are groups playing it. But this is one way to do it quickly and easily and plan a whole campaign from a simple seed. Who is the bad guy? You could alternatively ask, what is the artifact everyone wants? And then invent 3 factions who want that artifact. Or you'll lean on your players. One of them says, I want to become a king. And if everyone is on board, you decide, okay, what 3 factions want to stop him? But you can start with this villain method and try other campaigns in the future. Because, and here's the beauty of this whole thing, it's an outline. It's a vague idea of a campaign. And I think that's how it should be. You'll leave gaps in your outline so your players can invite themselves into the holes you made. Blimey. Turns out one of them had a pirate captain betray them in their backstory. Yoink. Turns out one of them hates dragons. Yoink. She's getting a dragon nightmare scene. And one of them loves gold.
I love gold.
Well, who doesn't? In this fantasy game, I have loads of money and I get 8 hours of rest every night. You leave gaps in your outlines so you and your players can discover what's in them together at the session every week as you prepare 1 session ahead of time. That is the beauty of this whole game. It's a collaborative dance. You've got co-writers. You'll start hitting at stuff from your outline in session 1, and the players will drop a theory on you so awesome you decide that's what the bad guys are doing. Lean into the collaboration, into the sketchy, unrendered scenes of the outline. And then as you play, you'll render details at the table with your friends. What could be better than that? And that's where we'll pick it up next time. Thanks so much for watching this video. This channel is run by me and my girlfriend. Thank you. And if you want to support us directly, consider joining our Patreon, where this month, Adept tier patrons get the Vessels of Light, a pair of good aligned artifacts perfect for high-level play. If you're feeling especially generous, you might like the video, comment, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified when we release new videos. Until next time, keep studying the mystic arts.